This is Julia Widup with Talk Story TV, and I have with me today Rahima Warren, the author of Dark Innocence. I've read her book, and I highly recommend it. So tell us a little bit about your book, Rahima.
This is a fantasy story, but it's a bit unusual because it's actually the story of the protagonist, whose name is Kier, his healing journey. He starts out in life as a slave of a very powerful, all-powerful, evil sorcerer. He's born and raised to be a slave of this sorcerer, and so he's grown up in this dark labyrinth where he doesn't know anything but pain and suffering and evil, including that he is trained to inflict suffering and death on other people. And due to circumstances in the story, which I won't reveal, so it won't ruin the story for you, he ends up leaving that environment and being with ordinary strangers that teach him things that he's never known before. And it's a very difficult thing to learn when you start out with that kind of background. He has to learn what is kindness. He's never experienced any of that. He has to learn what's friendship or what is love. And you might think that's all really great, but the problem is that by learning those things, he realizes what he's been doing all his life is very evil, and he feels a lot of remorse about what he's been doing. So then he really needs help, and he goes on a very difficult healing journey to face his crimes that he's committed, and also then even worse, to face the suffering that he endured as a slave of this sorcerer. So he has a very difficult journey, and he has relapses, and which is what happens on the healing journey sometimes. It's usually not a straight line journey. It's more like a spiral, and you keep coming back around to the same things you think you've already faced and dealt with. But there's more to learn each time, and each time it's a stepping stone further on the path. In the story, we call it the hard path of healing and love, and as opposed to the easy path of despair and hatred. And so that's his journey, is on the hard path.
It was very interesting, and I'm a psychotherapist as well, so I've seen this happen exactly as you're describing over and over. And
yes,
this book goes into such depth and is so intense. It lets you understand the process at a much deeper level than you could ever explain it.
That's right. It's like you can experience it vicariously through the story and really feel what happens and through the story, and to realize that even if you relapse, that's not the end of the healing journey. That's just one of the stepping stones on the journey, as long as you come back to the hard path. And a number of readers have said that they've had healing experiences from reading the story itself. For example, one woman told me that she read the story, and she had been very angry at a man who hit her accidentally with her car and caused her injury. And she from reading the story, was able to finally reach forgiveness for that man and let go of that trauma. Mm-hmm. And she was very grateful for reading the story because it really helped her.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes you, I think it would, if you can relate it to your own situation, you can see that the people that abused you, something made them that way.
Right. Absolutely. And, a number of people have said that they really relate their own healing journey to the story about Kier's journey, and have really learned things for themselves from reading the book about their own journey. So it's a little different than, it's not really escapist fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it's interesting though. It's definitely gets your mind, occupies your mind.
Well, that's the other thing people say, is that almost everyone who reads it says it's very gripping, and that they can't put it down once they start reading it. Because the story is also very involving just as a story, and there's a lot of complications with other characters and their stories and secrets and mysteries that are going on, and so it's gripping as a story just by itself, aside from the healing aspect.
I think you should enter it in some contests. I'm sure it would win if it was in the proper category.
Yeah, I'll have to find the right ones.
Yeah. Well, and you say you made it into a trilogy.
Well, that's when I started writing it. I actually thought I was just going to write a little short story for this character that was bugging me in my imagination, and I thought he'd go away after I wrote the story. But the opposite happened. He sort of jumped out and took over my life and insisted that I write his whole entire story, and it was a lot of fun and exciting to keep writing and find out what happened, because I wasn't writing from an outline or a plan. I was just writing whatever he told me was happening next. And that took about 3 years, and I thought the whole time I was writing it was like a secret. I was never going to show it to anybody. It was just me and him and his other characters in the story. And but then I got to the end and I saw, two things. One, it was as long as a trilogy, and two, that it was a really powerful story that needed to be out in the world where it could do some good for people.
And I'm sure it has. And it has.
It has. People have told me, yeah.
Right.
But also, I had to learn how to write fiction. I did my best, and so I revised it and reshaped it and edited it and polished it for a number of years before it finally got published last year.
Great. And what did you write for your guest article for us? Did you write?
Oh, I wrote about the healing aspect a little bit. I have it here. Pretty much what we've been saying. It's the one thing in that blog post that I really like is this quote from Marcel Proust, who says, "We don't receive wisdom. We must discover it for ourselves after a journey that no one can take for us or spare us." And that feels very true to me, that, lots of people can tell you good things, but a lot of times that doesn't stick, You can read a self-help book and, then forget all about it, and so on, And really what it is you have to go on your own journey, no matter how difficult, in order to find your own wisdom, and then it will really be integrated into you and make a difference in your life. So that's why I think this story is very important, because it shows how that works. And yet it's also a very fascinating story.
Yes, it is.
So it's a good combination.
And
it's fun to read.
You who are watching this, you can read Rahima's guest article that she wrote for us at tvbackstory.com. And I hope you'll go there, and there'll be links to her website. You have a website, right?
Yes, I have a website. What's the name of the trilogy is the Star Seers Prophecy, and the website is www.starseersprophecy.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And can you give us any hints about the upcoming ones that I haven't read yet?
Well, his path doesn't get much easier. He has more to go through in books 2 and 3. And the challenge he faces there is to hold on to what he learned and who he became in the first book, despite running into more problems and difficult situations. So he, his old compatriots from the bad old days capture him in book 2 and take him away.
Coming because they were looking for him.
Didn't you? So he has to, and he wants to try to help them overcome their background and heal, and yet, that's not necessarily so easy to accomplish. So that's what's going on in book 2, and then book 3, some of the mysteries that have been alluded to start to become revealed. What's going on between Rajani and Lucia and the circle and the goddess and the god that have been woven into the story. And in the book 3, his challenge is to face betrayal and find his way to forgiveness. And also then he's all this time being shaped by the goddess to be her vessel and to meet his divine partner to come together and restore the sacred balance of the world. So that's sort of what book 3 is about. So there's a lot more to happen.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's all written. I just have to polish it up and get it out there. If I ever get time to do that.
And you have, who's your publisher?
My publisher is Rose Press, a small indie press in Berkeley, California. No, Oakland, California. With the help of Epigraph Publishing Services.
And I bet they're excited to have your book. They should be.
I wanted to mention something that happened this week. I was watching 60 Minutes, and there was an incredible story about a North Korean prisoner that escaped from a prison that's called a total control zone. And his story very much is similar to Keir's story in my book, in a lot of ways, because he was actually born and bred to be a slave laborer in this prison camp and was raised not knowing anything but starvation, hunger, torture, murder, pretty much like the hero of my story. And he managed to amazing circumstances to escape, and he's going through what Keir's going through, which is trying to understand what kindness is and what friendship is. And he said in the interview, he's starting to feel some remorse and realize that he'd like to go back and apologize to his mother and brother, who he actually turned into the authorities and who were executed. And he wants to help those people in those prison camps and wants to get those camps shut down. So he's developed some empathy and compassion, but he said he doesn't yet know what love is. So it was really kind of amazing and shocking to realize that something that happened in my story actually happened in reality. So it was
Well, it reminded me of the stories I've read about the baby soldiers in the Congo, and they're taken when they're very, very young and trained to be soldiers and killers. And I'm sure I read one by a guy who got away.
Yeah.
And
so it's, this story is not that much of a fantasy.
No.
It's really happening to a lot of people. And even when you think about our veterans that come back from any war have suffered amazing traumas, even if they're not wounded physically. And, they have to recover from they're starting to realize that. In fact, I just read in Newsweek that the worst thing is when they realize that they've killed people. And that is what causes a lot of trauma for any veterans of any war. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the trouble on our planet, is that there's been so many men that have been in so many wars and been so traumatized. And they need this healing journey desperately. And
especially before they have children themselves.
Yeah, and start passing the trauma on. Or anybody who's been, like in the Holocaust or, So my story is a fantasy, but it's not that far from reality.
No, I agree totally. Well, this has been a wonderful interview. I definitely want to interview you about your next books. And
great.
I want to encourage everyone to go read her article at tvbackstory.com. Click on her link. Go buy this book. It's a great book. I have it right here. I love this book. Whoops. I'm always confused because it's backwards from what you're looking at.
Oh, I know what you mean. It's also available on Amazon. And my new news is I'm just getting it ready to be in ebook format. So it's going to be available as an ebook in the next couple of weeks.
But it's
on Amazon, Kindle, and all the rest.
You might, I guess, I have never gotten an e-reader. I can't imagine reading in bed with an e-reader, but maybe it's just fine.
Oh, it works great. I enjoy it, and especially great for travel because you can take a whole bunch of books with you, and it's only one little thing.
And not heavy.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us, and hopefully you'll be available in the chat room.
I'm planning on it, yeah.
Okay, so you can ask Rahima questions in the chat room, and be sure and read her story. Thanks,
Okay,
Rahima.
thank you. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.